The lid of the dumpster was frozen shut. It took Elias 3 tries to pry it open. His fingers were stiff, they were numb. They felt like dead wood inside his torn gloves, but he needed cardboard. The temperature in Chicago had dropped to 10 below zero. If he didn't find something to put between his body and the concrete, he wouldn't wake up tomorrow. He knew the statistics. He knew how the city cleaned up the streets after a storm. They didn't just shovel snow. They shoveled people. Elias got the lid open. The smell hit him first, rotting vegetables, old coffee, but then he heard it. A sound that didn't belong in an alleyway at 2 in the morning. It wasn't a rat's scratch. It wasn't a cat's hiss. This was a whimper, soft, rhythmic, desperate. Elias leaned over the edge. The street lamp flickered above him, casting long, dancing shadows into the metal box. He saw a trash bag. It was black plastic tied at the top. But the bag was moving. Elias stopped breathing. His heart hammered against his ribs like a trapped bird. He reached in. He ignored the pain in his shoulder. He ignored the screaming of his frozen joints. He grabbed the plastic. It was heavy. He pulled it out and set it gently on the snow-covered asphalt. His hands were shaking so bad he could barely work the knot. He tore the plastic, and the world stopped. Inside the bag wasn't garbage. Inside the bag was a baby, a girl. Her skin was blue. Her eyes were squeezed shut. She wasn't crying anymore. She was too cold to cry. She was wrapped in nothing but a thin, expensive-looking towel. Elias didn't think. He didn't weigh his options. He ripped open his own coat. It was filthy. It smelled like gasoline and sweat. But inside, against his chest, it was warm. He scooped the tiny body up and shoved her against his skin. Skin to skin. That's what the medics used to say in the army. You share the heat. You share the life. He zipped the coat up over both of them, leaving only a tiny gap for her to breathe. He fell back against the brick wall, gasping. Steam rose from his mouth in ragged bursts. He looked down at the gap in his jacket. He waited 1 second, 2 seconds, and then he felt it. A tiny movement against his chest, a heartbeat. She was alive, but for how long? Elias looked up at the building the dumpster belonged to. It was a luxury apartment complex. The kind with a doorman and marble floors. The kind of place that would call the cops if they saw a man like Elias standing within 50 feet of the entrance. Someone from that building had thrown this child away like a broken toaster. If he went to the police, they would take her. They would put her in the system, and they would arrest him. They always arrested the homeless guy. He looked at the baby again, and that's when he saw it. Sticking out of the towel, caught on the jagged zipper of his coat. A bracelet, tiny, gold, and on the charm a single engraved initial, the letter J. Elias stared at it. His blood went cold, colder than the air around him, because he knew that bracelet. He didn't just recognize it. He had bought it 10 years ago for his own daughter, before the addiction took his house. Before the grief took his mind, before he disappeared. He had put that bracelet on his daughter's wrist on her 16th birthday, which meant this baby wasn't a stranger. This baby was family, and someone had tried to kill her. Elias started running. He wasn't fast. His boots were held together with duct tape and hope. The snow was up to his shins, but he ran. He ran away from the luxury building. He ran toward the only place he felt safe, under the Wacker Drive Bridge. It was a city beneath a city, dark, damp, but out of the wind. As he moved, he kept one hand pressed against the lump in his jacket. He talked to her. "Stay with me," he whispered. "You stay with me, little one?" His voice was rusty. He hadn't used it for much more than asking for change in weeks. "I got you. Grandpa's got you." The word felt strange in his mouth. Grandpa, his daughter, Sarah. He hadn't seen her in 6 years. The last time they spoke, he was drunk. She was screaming. She told him to leave and never come back, so he did. He respected her wish. He watched her from a distance sometimes. He knew she had done well. She worked in finance. She married a man who wore suits that cost more than Elias's car used to. He had seen them once walking out of a restaurant. She looked happy. So why was her baby in a dumpster? Why was his granddaughter freezing to death in an alley? He reached his spot under the bridge. He had a setup there, a tent made of tarps, a sleeping bag he found at a Salvation Army. He crawled inside. It wasn't warm, but it was dry. He didn't take the baby out of his coat. He sat cross-legged, rocking back and forth. He needed to think. If Sarah had thrown the baby away, then she had snapped. Postpartum psychosis. He had heard of it. But Sarah was the strongest person he knew. She was the one who held the family together when her mother died. She wouldn't do this, but if she didn't do it, who did? The husband? The man in the expensive suit? Elias closed his eyes. He remembered the man's face. Handsome, sharp, but cold. The kind of eyes that look right through you. The baby shifted against him. She made a noise, a hunger noise. Elias panicked. He had no food. He had a half-empty bottle of water and a granola bar he'd been saving for 2 days. He couldn't feed a newborn a granola bar. He needed formula. He needed a bottle, and he had $3.40 in his pocket. It was 3 o'clock a.m. The stores were closed, except the 24-hour pharmacy on State Street. He had to go back out. He had to go back into the storm. He tightened his scarf. "Okay," he whispered. "One more mission." He treated it like an operation. Objective, formula, obstacle, the blizzard. Enemy, the entire city of Chicago. He crawled out of the tent. The wind hit him like a physical blow. He bent his head and pushed forward. Every step was a battle. The snow was falling so hard he couldn't see 5 feet in front of him. He kept his hand over the baby's head, shielding her. He made it to State Street. The pharmacy lights were a beacon in the gray swirl. He walked in. The heat slammed into him. It hurt his frozen skin. The clerk behind the counter looked up. He was a kid, maybe 20. He saw Elias. He saw the dirty coat, the matted beard, the wild eyes. "We don't have public restrooms," the kid said. "You have to leave." Elias didn't leave. He walked to the baby aisle. He grabbed a premixed bottle of formula. He grabbed a pack of diapers. He walked to the counter. He put the items down. He put his $3.40 on the glass. The total on the register was $22. The kid sighed. "Look, man, you don't have enough. Put it back." Elias looked at the kid. "Please," Elias said. "Store policy." The kid said, "I can't just give it to you." Elias felt the baby squirm. She was going to cry. If she cried, the kid would know. If the kid knew, he would call the cops. Elias leaned in close. "I need this," he said. His voice was low, dangerous. The kid flinched. "I'm calling security," the kid said. He reached for the phone. Elias had a choice, run or fight. He was about to grab the formula and run when the TV behind the counter caught his eye. It was the local news, breaking news. A photo filled the screen. It was a photo of his daughter. Sarah, she was crying. Next to her was the husband. The headline read, "Missing baby, family pleads for return." Elias stared. The audio was low, but he could hear it. Snatched from her crib, the reporter was saying, "Police are looking for a suspect described as a male, roughly 6 feet tall." Elias stopped listening. Snatched from her crib? No, he found her in a dumpster, tied in a trash bag. Someone was lying, and then he saw the husband's face on the screen. The man wasn't crying. He was looking at the camera, and he looked relieved. The pieces clicked into place. The husband didn't want the baby found, because he was the one who put her in the trash, and now he was using the media to cover his tracks. Elias looked at the clerk. The kid was dialing the phone. Elias didn't run. He didn't fight. He reached into his coat and pulled the zipper down, just enough for the kid to see the tiny, sleeping face. The kid froze. He dropped the phone. His mouth fell open. "Is that?" The kid whispered. "Is that the baby from the news?" Elias looked at the kid. "They said she was kidnapped," Elias said. "They lied. The back room of the pharmacy was quiet." The kid, whose name was Marcus, locked the front door. He turned off the open sign. "My manager is gonna kill me," Marcus said. He was pacing. Elias was sitting on a crate of soda. He was feeding the baby. She drank greedily, her tiny hands clutching his dirty finger. "You have to call the police," Marcus said. "No police," Elias said. "The police answer to the rich, and that man on TV. He's rich. So what are you going to do? Raise her in a tent?" Elias looked down at the baby. She had Sarah's nose. She had Sarah's chin. "I need to get to Sarah," Elias said. Without him knowing, the husband. He tried to kill her once. He'll try again. Marcus stopped pacing. He looked at Elias, really looked at him. He saw the way Elias held the bottle, the way he shielded the baby's head. "You know her," Marcus said. "The mom, you know her." "She's my daughter," Elias said. The silence in the room was heavy. "Okay," Marcus said. "Okay." He pulled out his phone. "I can find out where they live. The news usually shows the block." He tapped the screen. "Here, Gold Coast, 1200 block of Astor Street." Elias nodded. "I know it. It's 3 miles, Marcus said. "In a blizzard." "I've walked further," Elias said. "Not with a baby," Marcus said. Marcus went to the lost and found box behind the counter. He pulled out a thick wool scarf, a beanie. Then he took off his own jacket. It was a heavy parka. "Take it," Marcus said. Elias stared at him. "You'll freeze." "I have a car out back," Marcus said. "You have a 3-mile walk." Elias stood up. He handed the baby to Marcus for a second so he could put on the coat. The warmth was instant. It felt like armor. He took the baby back. "Why?" Elias asked. Marcus looked at the baby. "Because my dad left," Marcus said. "He left me and my mom. He didn't care if we starved." He looked Elias in the eye. "You stayed, you came back." Elias nodded. He didn't trust his voice. He walked out the back door. The wind was waiting for him, but this time he was ready. He wasn't just a homeless man anymore. He was a father on his way to save his child. The walk was brutal. The snow was knee-deep now. Cars were abandoned in the middle of the street. The city was a ghost town. Elias kept his head down. He focused on his breathing. In, out, 1 step, 2 steps. He thought about Sarah. He thought about the day she was born. He had promised her he would always protect her. He had broken that promise 1,000 times. With the bottle, with the anger, with the silence. But tonight he would keep it. He reached a store street an hour later. The street was lined with mansions. Police cars were parked in front of one of them. The lights were flashing blue and red against the snow. News vans were set up down the block. Elias hid in the shadows of a neighbor's porch. He watched. The front door of the mansion opened. The husband came out. He was talking to a police officer. He looked angry, impatient. Elias crept closer. He needed to get inside. He needed to find Sarah. He went around the back, the alley. It was always the alley for people like him. He climbed a fence. He dropped into the backyard. Through the kitchen window, he saw movement. A woman. She was sitting at the table. Her head was in her hands. Her shoulders were shaking. Sarah. Elias moved to the window. He tapped on the glass. She didn't hear him. The wind was too loud. He tapped harder. She looked up. Her face was swollen from crying. Her eyes were hollow. She saw a figure in the window, a man in a parka. She stood up, terrified. She started to back away. Elias pulled down his scarf. He pressed his face to the glass. He mouthed one word, "Dad." She froze. She stared at him, disbelief, shock, and then recognition. She ran to the door. She threw it open. "Dad," she whispered, "what are you?" Elias didn't speak. He stepped inside. He unzipped the parka. He pulled the bundle away from his chest. Sarah gasped. Her hands flew to her mouth. "No," she sobbed. "No, it's not possible." Elias held the baby out. "She's okay," Elias said. "She's safe." Sarah grabbed the baby. She fell to her knees on the kitchen floor. She kissed the baby's face, her hands, her feet. "He told me she was gone," Sarah cried. "He told me someone took her." "He did take her," Elias said. "He took her to a dumpster." Sarah looked up. Her eyes hardened. The grief was gone, replaced by something else, something dangerous. "He did what?" "I found her," Elias said. "In the alley behind your old building, the one he owns." Sarah stood up. She held the baby tight against her shoulder. "He said he heard a noise," she said. "He went to check. He said the crib was empty." "He lied," Elias said. Just then the kitchen door swung open. The husband walked in. "Sarah, the police need to." He stopped. He saw Elias. He saw the baby. His face went pale. "What is this?" the husband stammered. "Who is this vagrant?" Elias stepped forward. He was dirty. He was tired. He smelled like the street, but he stood tall. "I'm her father," Elias said. The husband sneered. You're the drunk she told me about." He reached for his phone. "I'm calling the police. You kidnapped my child." "Call them," Sarah said. Her voice was ice. The husband looked at her. "Sarah, honey, he obviously stole her and brought her back for a reward." "Look at the blanket," Sarah said. The husband looked. It was the yellow quilt. "What about it?" "It was in the attic," Sarah said. "In a sealed box. You're the only one who has the key." The husband froze. "You took her," Sarah said. She was walking toward him. "You didn't want a baby. You said it would ruin your career. You said we weren't ready." "That's crazy," the husband said. He was backing up. "You took her while I was sleeping," Sarah said, "and you threw her away." "Sarah, be reasonable. Get out." Sarah screamed. It was a sound that shook the walls. The police officer from the front yard burst into the kitchen, hand on his holster. "What's going on?" "Here," Sarah turned to the officer. She pointed at her husband. "Arrest him," she said. "Attempted murder." "Sarah," the husband pleaded. "And him?" the officer asked, pointing at Elias. Sarah looked at her father. She saw the snow in his beard, the exhaustion in his eyes. She saw the man who had walked through a blizzard to save her world. "That's my father," she said. "He's the hero." Police took the husband away in handcuffs. They found traffic camera footage of his car near the dumpster. It was over. The house was quiet. Elias sat on the expensive white sofa. He felt out of place. He was afraid to touch anything. Sarah came in from the kitchen. She had 2 mugs of hot chocolate. She sat down next to him. She didn't care about the dirt on his coat. "You kept the bracelet," she said softly. Elias looked at his hands. "I kept everything," he said. "In my head." Sarah leaned her head on his shoulder. It was the first time in 10 years. "I'm sorry, Dad," she said, "for everything." "Don't be," Elias said. "We're here now." He looked over at the bassinet where the baby was sleeping. Her name was Maya. "You know," Elias said, "she's got a grip, strong hands." Sarah smiled. "She gets that from her grandpa." Elias stayed that night, and the next night he didn't move in permanently. He couldn't. The walls felt too close, but he didn't go back to the bridge. Sarah got him a small apartment. A studio. It had heat. It had a lock on the door, and every Sunday he went to the big house on a store street. He would sit in the garden, and he would hold Maya. One afternoon, months later, the snow was finally melting. Elias was pushing Maya in a stroller through the park. A woman walked by. She looked at Elias, clean-shaven now, wearing a decent coat. "Beautiful baby," the woman said. "Is she yours?" Elias looked down at the little girl. She smiled at him. A gummy, toothless smile. He thought about the dumpster. He thought about the cold. He thought about the darkness, and he smiled back. "No," Elias said. "She's not mine." He paused. "I'm just the one who found her." The woman walked away. Elias leaned down and tucked the yellow blanket around Maya's feet. "But I'm never letting you go again," he whispered. He turned the stroller around, and together they walked home. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more real-life tales of survival and redemption. See you in the next one.